College is something that 10 to 20 years ago, a lot of people with autism would not have considered. But there are so many opportunities in our college system across the country. And just because you have a disability does not mean that that shouldn't be something on your horizon. So during this episode, I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the things that you need to know about what you can expect from college and what colleges can offer. More and more colleges across the country are welcoming students. So not even just accepting them, but welcoming students with different disabilities. It used to be where, it was kind of told, sadly, to kids while they were in school, well, if you have a disability and you have an IEP, then college probably is not on your horizon, which is awful. But I think that is one of the things that has changed in our communities in a really good way. You now see people who don't verbally communicate and have autism graduating from colleges with honors. So there should be no limitations placed on anyone. And in most situations, the limitations that we place on ourselves are the ones that are the most damaging. And so as family members, we want to make sure that we encourage our children that they can achieve whatever it is that they seek to achieve with whatever support that they need. So maybe it's support from you, maybe it is support from the high schools and the guidance counselors. But just because a person has a disability, they should certainly not be told that college is not on the horizon. Now, there is a difference, though, between students who are in high school on regular standards and students who have been exempt from standardized testing. And this is something that I've even run into teachers who didn't know this, that if a student is in high school and they are not on regular standards, so they are not taking the state test, they've been exempt from that test, and they have to meet the criteria, so they have to have certain identified IQ score. Tends to vary a little bit from state to state, but in the state of Florida, it's a 67 IQ. So there are some parameters on being exempt. But if your child is exempt from the testing and is not on regular standards in high school, then if they go on to college, it will not be a degree-seeking program, unless they're able to take the GED afterwards and pass that, or pass some type of entrance exam. But they will not have had the transcript that is going to show that they mastered the grade level content and made it through the regular courses that are required. When you apply to college, you can, if you want, send them your diploma, but what they always ask for is your transcript. And if your child's transcript shows special education course codes, then a degree-seeking program is not going to be on their horizon. So that's just something to keep aware of. Because most children with disabilities will graduate high school on regular standards. But for those who are not on regular standards, there are more and more colleges, universities that are creating specialized programs for people with disabilities. But I just want to make sure that you understand there is a difference between those programs and a degree-seeking program. So those programs are, generally speaking, employment programs. So college might have a hospitality management program, and that's what they're working on, or something in the arts, or something in the food industry. So you could check out different colleges and see what they have to offer. There's even some who have dorms, and you have the whole college experience, no matter if you are on regular standards or off. So check with your local universities if you want to go local, and of course you could check with your state universities to see, because there are more and more colleges coming on board for that. Now, as far as the students who graduate on regular standards, again, they're going to look for your transcript. So you want to make sure that you have to think forward, right? You have to think about you have to talk to your kid, be looking at the schools that they might be interested in or not. I mean, college isn't for everybody. Some people just humans in general don't want to go to college. They just want to go right into the world of work. And that's great. And there are lots of opportunities there for vocational rehabilitation to help with that, to find jobs in your communities, find things that are areas of interest. So there are definitely support systems out there for that. But for the student who does want to go to college, speaking with the guidance counselor is really important. And a lot of times, sadly, I find that guidance counselors are very hands-off when it comes to students with disabilities. So if you find that the case, you need to work on changing that, because most of the time, the person who runs your IEP meetings, they don't know that stuff. They don't understand the whole college experience and understand everything that goes into college and the transition to college and what's necessary for college. But your guidance counselors do. That's their job. That's what they specialize in. And who knows, maybe through helping your child, or you, if you're listening, that might then help you teach that person more about how to help others with disabilities make the transition into schools of higher learning. Okay, so in every college and university, they have something called the Office of Disabilities. And I can tell you from kind of seeing how my son experienced it and my interactions with staff there, it was awesome. I think that he got better accommodations in college than he had when he was in high school. They were extremely accommodating. And so most schools have a testing area, so like a department. So you don't even have to take a test inside the classroom. You could take the test in the testing center. And many of them are like little like personal offices. It's like really cool. They have a whole system going on. It's very private, very personal, and it just lowers the stress level on, thinking, oh, everybody else is done with the test, and I'm too stressed out, and I don't know if I remember the material. Just, you guys remember, everything that goes into taking tests, they could do that. They can get notes given to them so that they don't have to sit there and voraciously try to take notes inside the classroom, right? And these days, a lot of times the professors, they're giving the notes to everybody. And even some professors will allow them to have open book tests or use their notes. And so the notes are really important. And then you or your child, you can take notes on top of those notes of things that might come up during the professor's teaching. And so that you can use those to study. That brings up another thing, study guides. Being able to get study guides so that you are prepared for the assessments. I'd like to just add one thing that, two. So let's talk about two things that I think are really important in college that I don't think are taught enough in high school and tend to get a person in trouble. So one is plagiarism. That will get you kicked out of college really quick. And they use software now that detect plagiarism. So it's not like where the teacher has to go through and physically sit and read every paper that's turned in and be able to know, okay, does this sound like he or she copied it from somewhere? Because there are ways to catch you if you do that. And what kids are taught all through school is to go back into the text and find the answer. And then they just pull that answer and they put it right in their paper. But if they're not taught about plagiarism and that you have to reword that, again, they can get kicked out. So you want to make sure that that is part of the teaching process for high school students, that they are taught that it's not just go into the text and pull it out. You have to put it in your own words or you will get in trouble. The other thing is for people with autism who have a tendency to be painfully honest sometimes, when professors make mistakes, right? And because they're humans just like everybody else, and if you or your child sitting in a college course and the professor's writing something on the board and there's something wrong with it, you might think, oh, he made a mistake there. But most of us would just move on. We would just kind of, okay, well, he made a mistake. I see it, but I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing and we'll see how it goes. Or we might say, I don't know, maybe that seems a little off. But I have known students who will, right there in a lecture hall of 200 students, let a professor know that he is wrong. And just like that, that is wrong, your answer is wrong. And the professor then points to the door and tells the student to leave. So that type of correction that is often viewed as a help, right? I'm helping you. You made a mistake, and so I'm helping you. Can not be perceived in the way that it was intended by people who don't know or understand autism, and that input can be coming from a place of sincerity, and they may take it the exact opposite way. So again, take that information and teach those skills while you still can, because you don't, yes, you can learn that lesson when you are kicked out of that class, and you can learn that lesson when you were cited for plagiarism. But if you want to make things easier on your kids, then help them gain those skills now. And if you're a teacher, same thing. You want them to gain those skills while they're sitting in your classroom and not when they move on to college. Disclosure. So you only get those accommodations when you disclose your disability. So if you go on to college and you decide, I'm not going to tell anybody, I'm just going to go to school, I'm not going to tell anybody, I'm not going to say anything about my disability, then you're not going to get any accommodations. And when you go on to look for a job, if you don't disclose your disability and you end up having an issue that's related to your disability, and your boss doesn't like it, and you say, oh, well, I have autism, then they're going to say, well, you didn't tell me that before. And maybe if you have a good boss, they'll work through it, and you'll come into a good place, but it can go the exact opposite way. And I do not see the benefit of not disclosing, because would you want to work in a place that wouldn't accept who you are? I would say no. Of course, I'm not everybody, but I would want myself and my son to work in a place where, regardless of how he processes information differently or how bad my handwriting is, that the people are going to accept me for the benefits that I will bring to their business. Self-advocacy. We have to teach kids when they're younger how to speak up for themselves, how to advocate, how to write emails. Because that's how a lot of professors are interacting with their students when they're not in class. They're not going to their offices to meet. They're communicating with them through emails. So teaching kids how to write an email, what to say in an email, what not to say in an email, because that is an art that many of us try to learn through our entire lives. And so being able to self-advocate, to let their teachers, their dorm mates know what they need and how to get it, how to tap into the Office of Disabilities, by recognizing their rights and their responsibilities. Because once you move on from school, there are a whole lot more responsibilities that you have, and you have to be able to toe the line in order to continue. So in lower school, if you're not doing so good in a class because you haven't turned in all your papers, sometimes, I see high school teachers will say, well, we're going to give him a grade for what he has, he has given, right? What he has submitted. In college, no, if you don't turn in what is expected, that's, you can get reduced assignments. But again, that has to be discovered and shared on the front end, not after you haven't turned in 3 papers and then you say to your professor, oh, by the way, I think I need to have reduced assignments. So that kind of stuff needs to be done up front. Personal experiences. So being able to engage with students. There's tons of clubs in college environments and tons of opportunities for gatherings and finding your tribe. Because colleges have very eclectic type of clubs and groups that get together. And so I am sure that your kid will find one that they just love and where they can find other people that love the same things that they love. And that kind of makes us all happy, which leads to the last thing I'm going to talk about, and that is self-acceptance. And, when we discover who we are through our experiences and what we're good at, that's when self-acceptance just kind of comes into play. And there are some people, particularly young people with autism, who will say that they don't see themselves as being an autistic individual. And it makes it challenging because then they may miss out on these opportunities with the accommodations and maybe even a choice, because there are some universities and places of employment that are actually seeking out people who have autism. So if you are a parent and you have a child who's really struggling with the identification of their disability, talk to a counselor, talk to a psychologist, get their opinion, talk to teachers, and work as a group to kind of brainstorm about how it might be best to approach the situation. Because that's going to help the student kind of come into who they are and be able to find the benefits and also explain why maybe they have some of the struggles that they do. Okay. All right. So I hope you guys got some benefit from this, and that you will continue to follow along and check in with our No Limits Global, that if you're listening to this and it's not quite out yet, it will be soon. So just follow us on autismfl.org and you'll be able to get all the information that you need there. All right. I look forward to seeing you guys again soon.